Hello, friends, and happy Easter to you. Woo! I know this Easter is not like any other Easter you have celebrated in the past because, you have to stay home and celebrate this Easter, probably watch some of the masses online. But here is the thing, and this is my suggestion. Maybe this Easter could lead you on a journey of embracing a whole new way of seeing Easter. You will move from seeing Easter as an event that happens every year that you have to celebrate inside the four walls of the church to embracing the Easter, which tells you the message of a resurrection that happens every single day of your life. How about that? When you move from seeing it as a particular event that happens just once in a year to something that happens every day of your life, it helps you to embrace what I would call a resurrection spirit, the kind of spirit that embodies every one of your actions and thinking, the way you move and glide in the world. Now that is what it means to live the resurrection. And let's be honest, that's a better way of living. But I'm gonna try and help you in the next few minutes to help you see resurrection in a more dynamic way and far beyond an event that happened 2,000 years ago, but an event that keeps happening every single day of your life. Then you can see the relevance of this explosive message of Easter and what it means for you and I today. Now, 2,000 years ago, during the time of Jesus actually came into the world where the powers that be, and I'm talking about the Roman Empire and the Herodians and all the religious leaders, were using their power to abuse those who don't have power. In a way, Jesus began his message preaching about a whole new kingdom where he was about ushering in a whole new world that is totally different from the kind of world that people were living in. The world where people were oppressed, where the poor don't have anything to say, where all those who have lost everything because of the heavy taxation that was levied upon them, we are being pushed the edges of the society. Jesus comes and says no. And so he goes about doing good, feeding those who were hungry. You realize now why 5,000 people were following Jesus into the desert, because they were desperate for food, and Jesus fed them and gave them food and gave them a whole new message, the message of hope and liberation. And as Jesus was doing all these things, he was raging against the system of his day. Yep, he was speaking against the system of oppression, the system of slavery, the system of hopelessness, the system that always tears people apart and bring them down. And Jesus didn't stand for that, and so he spoke against that. And that's why all the powers that be were looking for a way to kill him. And eventually Judas betrayed him, his friend betrayed him, and then he was denied by Peter. And when he was crucified on the cross, his disciples, they all left him, except John and the women who stood there weeping. And then when Jesus dies, these people who killed him, these people who crucified him, these people who thought that they have power over him, thought that by killing him, that would be the end of him, without knowing that Jesus believed in a power that is far beyond anything that they could think or imagine. And that power is the power that death does not have the final word. There is a resurrection. There is a whole new world. No wonder why when he rises from the dead, the disciples saw him. They were surprised. They were shocked. They were amazed because they have never seen anything like that before. And I know Jesus was telling them when he was still alive that he's going to die, but he's going to rise on the third day. But they didn't believe him. And that's why when they saw him, they were still shocked and they couldn't believe him. And so when he breaks bread with them and takes them on the journey, they were like, oh, he is the Lord. And this changed the way they see everything, I mean everything about your life. You now see the power of the message of resurrection. That this is not just, oh man, I'm just gonna rock up on Easter Sunday and have some food and eat. No, this is a message that changes the way you do everything in the world, the way you see things in the world. And I think that's the message that we need now more than ever in our world. Because some of us have missed, the import of this explosive message of the resurrection. But think about it. Science has actually told us this story and tells us that this is the pattern of life. This is how everything works in our world. Physics has told us that nothing ever dies. Yes, nothing ever dies. And probably think that that is crazy, but that's true, because steeped into the fabric of the universe is a reminder that everything keeps coming alive. What we experience is some kind of transformation. Think about it. When the Big Bang happened, from the point of singularity, the universe has been inflating, becoming bigger and complex, and atoms becoming molecules becoming cells, and the universe has been growing and expanding and becoming bigger and bigger, which means things keeps going through the transformative movement forward. There is no going back on shrinking. No, it keeps expanding and becoming bigger, keeps transforming. And if you think that's weird, no, that's not weird at all. Because if you go to the quantum world, quantum physics tells us that subatomic particles, they behave in a very weird way. Some subatomic particles could move from point A to point B without traveling the distance in between. And some of them could move from point A to point B, but then going through all the different possible routes to get to point B. And then you get to see the movement they went through by observing. So if you observe the distance from right to left, and you get to see that the particle went through right to left, is because you are able to observe it. So if a particle went through different routes to a particular destination, you only see the route that you went through by just observing. Now this tells you that there is something weird about our universe. This tells you that there's something built into the fabric of our universe that doesn't make sense. So if you are standing there and thinking, well, resurrection doesn't make sense, think again. Because this changes the way we see everything in our world today. And actually, it teaches you what it means to be human today. It teaches you what it means to be a Christian today. It teaches you what it means to be. That's the whole explosive message. Because if you miss this big mystery, this big pattern of life, of things dying to rise up, of things transforming, taking new form and shape, and becoming much better and better and better. If you miss this big mystery, you will essentially miss what it means to be human. This is why you could have somebody who is a racist and then the person claim to be a Christian. Yep. And it's just, before you know it, like bigotry becomes just a click ahead. You will find somebody who is so hateful and yet they claim to be a Christian because they have missed the big pattern of life, this big mystery of life. They have seen resurrection as just one event that happens at a particular time or happened like 2,000 years ago, but not something that involves them here and now, something that involves the entirety of their life, the way they see things, the way they move in the world, the way they breathe in the world, and the way they relate with one another. And my friend, That's not a way to live. And so it makes me mad and crazy when I see some Christians explain resurrection as like, oh man, we're just gonna do a bit so that at the end we'll all go to heaven. And they say this in response to all those who are going to hell. What a waste of time. What a total waste of time. You see, when we see resurrection as something that involves the entirety of our life, it gives us hope. Hope that this world is not falling off a cliff. Things are not falling apart. Even when it seems to be falling apart, that is all going to a place beautiful. It's all going to a whole new place. And it's all bringing us into union with God, because that's where we belong. See, resurrection, when Jesus rises from the dead, Jesus is not a lone man who is like rising from the dead and saying, hey, look at me, I've just risen from the dead. No, Jesus rising from the dead involves all of us. It's like Jesus is dragging all of humanity from dead to life. That means you and I, every creation, the earth, the world that we live in, everything that involves us, even now that we are in this pandemic called coronavirus, Jesus is rising all of us from the dead, restoring the face of the earth, renewing everything, and breathing fresh air, fresh breath of life and love and vitality and energy, and whole new way of seeing the world, a whole new light shining in our world right at this time. That's why the message of resurrection is needed more than ever right now, in the midst of everything that we are going through in our life. Because right now it feels like dead all over the place. It feels like we are dying, but this message gives us hope. It tells us that death does not have the final word in any situation that we are finding ourselves right now. It doesn't. So Jesus involves all of us. It includes us. When the message of resurrection includes us, it gives us hope. It's not just about Jesus. It's about you and I. And that is why you don't need to be a Christian to understand the message of resurrection. Yes, you don't need to believe in the right things, to have, all the furnitures in your head arranged in the right place, and to have your noses clean, to feel the impact of resurrection, because it involves you. It involves everything around you. That's the whole message. And so at this time that we are in this difficulty of the coronavirus, may we come to realize that Christ is doing something in us, in our world, and restoring us to a whole new life. And let us embrace that in its entirety. Because you know what? As is popularly said, everything will be okay at the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. And that, my friend, is what I'm talking about when I talk about living the resurrection spirit. And may grace and peace be with you. Amen.